All right, so for the 25's tricks, what we gotta think of is whenever we're dividing by 4, any number we divide by 4, there's four things that can happen. Okay, when you divide by 4, you can either have a remainder of nothing, you can either have a remainder of 1, you can have a remainder of 2, or you can have a remainder of 3. So think of quarters. If you have a remainder of nothing, you have no quarters left, so you're going to put 0, 0 at the end because it goes in evenly. If you have a remainder of 1, that means you have 25 cents because you're dividing by 4, right? Here, if you're dividing by 4 and you have remainder 2, that means you have 50 cents, and here you have 75 cents. So these four numbers are going to be super important when you're multiplying times 25, okay? So the reason we say 4 is because 25 can be seen as 100 divided by 4, okay? So let's rewrite this whole thing as 24 times 100 divided by 4. Why? Because this right here and this right here are the same thing. So we're essentially saying the same thing, right? Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm going to move this one to divide the 24 by 4. So if I divide the 24 by 4, now I'm seeing it a little bit differently. Now I'm going to divide 24 by 4. That's 6. So this is really saying 6 times 100, which is 600, right? Notice how this went evenly. So since the 24 divided evenly, notice how I was saying to write 2 zeros, which you see the 2 zeros, right? So whenever you have remainder 1, you're going to put a 25, 50, remainder 3, you're going to put 75, depending on what's remaining after you divide this, okay? So your answer is here going to be 600, okay? Let's try number 2, okay? Remember, all this is done in your head. This right here, if I divide that by 4, it goes in evenly 8 times because that's 32. If it's 32 and this is 33, that means there's 1 remaining, which means I'm going to put a 25 at the end, okay? Over here, I'm going to divide that by 4. Well, 4 goes into 5 one time, and then this becomes a 14. How many times does 4 go into 14 evenly? That goes in 3 times, and then there's a remainder 2, so that means I'm going to put a 50, okay? Over here, I'm going to see how many times does 4 go into 67. Now, it helps if you know your multiples of 4. 64 is the closest to 67, and that's 16, okay? And there's a remainder 3, so I'm going to put a 75, okay? So that's how the 25's trick works, and this is more of the common thing that you're going to see. So what we're going to do is always divide this by 4. So that divided by 4, it goes in evenly, so it divides into 101, and then since it divides evenly, we're going to put 0, 0, okay? This one over here, let's see, does it divide into 4 evenly? So 4 goes into this 6 one time, 2 rolls over into the 20, and 4 goes into 25 times. 4 goes into 6 one time, and there's a remainder 2. So I'm going to put 50, okay? Now, this one over here, notice how we got to be super careful, mainly with remainder 2 and remainder 3. Because the decimal shifted over 2 times, if 4 goes in evenly, we do not write these 2 zeros because the decimal there, okay? So for example, if we would have done 25 times 16, we divide this by 4, so that's 4, and then we put 2 zeros because it goes in evenly. So in this case, since it's a 0.16, we would put the point here, but because you wrote those down, you would get it wrong. So in this case, your answer would just be 4, okay? So whenever you see the decimal place here, don't write the extra zeros here and here, okay? So this divided by 4, that's 6. We would normally write this 0, 0, but we don't because the decimal's there. Here again, divide that by 4, that's 8, and then we write the 0, 0, but we have the decimal there, so that's your answer.